Here, welcome. My name is Pao and I talk about all things bookish. Today we are continuing the series about just me going to interviews for a library assistant and what is going on. So basically, I'm in the third round of interviews for a library assistant position and it's been kind of a ride. I'm not gonna, sugarcoat it because this is the most intense interview process that I've ever been a part of. And I've done other things like professionally, specifically for local government. And this is like the most intense interview process I've ever been through. And it's just for a library position. So I'm really happy that you guys are here, and I'm really happy that I get to report this back to you guys because, yeah, this is quite a doozy. I've never been so intensely interviewed before until now. So strap in, get your popcorn, because I'm about to explain to you what just happened in this interview. Okay, so to start out with, my interview was Thursday at 2 and I got there right on time. It was raining super heavily and I was just like, oh my goodness, this is a lot. So I was already kind of nervous because, hydroplating is a thing. I got there just in time though. I gave them my name to the front desk and then a couple minutes later, a librarian did come get me and then she sent me to the back with her. We went through a bunch of doors and hallways and finally I went into a small conference room with a big round table, and there was her and 2 other librarians, so 3 librarians in total. They didn't give me a heads up that it wasn't going to be a one-on-one. Because I do have past, interview experience with libraries, I figured it was going to be a panel. Usually for local governments, it's not just a one-on-one interview with the manager. It's more like a panel because they will write down everything that you say, and towards the end we'll have a vote, and more on that later. So I'm just gonna continue on with my story. Basically, they sat me down. They were on one side of the table, I was on the other. They introduced themselves to me, I introduced myself. It was really nice. They were really kind to me. It was an older librarian and then 2 younger librarians, and it was really chill. I'm gonna be honest with you, this was one of the most relaxing interviews I had been a part of. It's just I've never been on a round 3 of an interview before. So it was nice. It was nice to actually see a person this time around. The way they broke it down, they said that obviously they had sent me an email before talking about how I needed to have a preschool outline of a preschool story time. So the way they structured it was they first were like, okay, we're gonna go through disclosures, then we're gonna go through a round of questions that we're gonna ask you, and then towards the end we did email you about having an outline for a preschool story time. And I was just like, okay, cool, so that's how it's gonna be structured. So the first section was disclosures, and by disclosures I mean they basically had to read out loud what was needed for this job. One of the librarians basically had a script and she read it and she was talking about how I have to stand for long periods of time, I have to be able to pick up heavy objects, and I have to be able to reach high things, and that I'm going to be expected to work X amount of hours during X amount of days. And I was like, okay, yes, I fully understand, because that was a statement, a disclosure that I had to basically say yes to verbally, and then they would sign it saying that everybody was a witness to me saying, yes, I know, I understand the terms and conditions, that was part of the job essentially. So with that out of the way, we then proceeded to the questionnaire part. This interview is supposed to be an hour long, so I know that they were kind of in a time crunch. They had pages and pages of questions, and luckily for you, right after I was done with my interview, I wrote it down. I didn't have a voice at the end of it though, so I couldn't really record right after like I did last time because it was just a lot of me just talking. So I just wrote it down and now I'm recording the next day specifically for you guys. So I hope you appreciate my effort. But I wrote down the questions on my phone. I'm gonna try to go through it a little faster this time because I feel like I've been repeating my answers over and over again. It's essentially the same thing, but I will give you some tips and tricks along the way. So like the first question was, why public libraries? What made you decide to apply here? And I feel like this question was mostly to see if you had a reason, a bigger reason why, other than just I like books. The other thing was to see if you actually did your due diligence and did your research on this particular city. And I was ready for it, girl. I had already creeped on them on Instagram and I had to like praise them a little bit for their efforts on like what they were doing currently because I really liked what they were doing. They basically are doing a pilot program for a library book van, and they come to you. Like if you're an elderly or disabled person that can't physically make it into the library to turn in books or to check out books or to take your hold, they can come to you and they can bring your books to you and they can pick up your books as well. So I thought that was such a cool program that they're piloting. Like it's in beta testing right now, but that's really cool that they're even putting in the effort to make it more inclusive to like the whole community. The other one was, what are your long-term and short-term goals? I had to tell them like, yeah, my long-term goals are basically, you know, being a part of the library world, having my degree already, and being able to, you know, help the community in whatever way, shape, or form. And then in terms of short-term goal, I did say right now I am currently looking for a library job, any library job, just to get my foot in the door because I am ready to go back deep into the library world head on. Even though eventually I feel like I want to be an archivist, my thinking may change. All I know is that I do want to get my graduate degree in library science and obviously go back to the library world. I hope they really like that answer because that was the truth and hence why I was applying to this job. Another question was, are you a team player or do you work better individually? I told them like it really depends on the project. Personally, I like being a team player when it's like a big thing that everybody has individual responsibilities assigned to them. But if it's individual project that I can get done quickly, then I like to get it done in my own way because I feel like I can get it done better and quicker, and I can also show my strengths individually versus being in a group where I feel like if you are in a group, it's all about communication and it's all about just how you interact with everybody and also getting your stuff done, and then on top of that trying to see if anybody else needs help to getting their stuff done because they may have more on their plate than you, right? So it's just helping out your fellow team members. I hope they like that answer as well because that's actually what I do in life. So if you were hired, what would you bring to the team was the other question. I started to be like, I bring a cool auntie vibe, and like let me explain that. When I was little, I was a Spanish speaker first. Obviously, like I couldn't really talk to like strangers. Like I was really shy with strangers, and then it sucked because they only spoke English. So I was like super shy. I was like double shy. I told them like if I could provide, you know, that person that I needed when I was little, I would. Which means like someone that was younger and someone who was able to understand in a different language. I'm able to speak Spanish and I'm able to communicate with them in a way that other people couldn't when I was younger. So that's what I would bring. I would bring a cool auntie vibe where I'm approachable, I'm kind, I'm respectful, and I'm not intimidating as other people were when I was a kid. What gives you purpose? That was like a big one because I was like, okay, honestly, I had to think long and hard. Like I actually touched a little bit on like how I'm pivoting industries and how I came to this point in my life and why I'm pivoting. And it's all about like the passion for it, the passion for like giving back to the community, wanting to be in local government, wanting something bigger than yourself, basically. Having the passion to keep going and keep being present for your local community. I personally find it fulfilling and it just keeps me going like every day. Even if it's not the same thing that I do every day, in little bits and pieces here, I feel like it contributes to something bigger than myself. And I feel like they really liked that question because I saw them scribbling that answer like a lot. Like they were just yeah. The next question was, what's a class that you would host and why? And so I'm really happy to report that I've actually recently hosted a class at another local library, thanks to Patricia, and that video is gonna come out next week. I'm so excited to show you guys. But basically, I hosted my first blind date with a book class. I completely forgot to tell them about that. I will tell you at the end what I ended up doing, but I completely blanked on that. And I just told them about my past experience on how I helped, you know, the other library that I used to work with other programs. I told them about this cool resin one, like that we made necklace and everything, and they had to pick out the molds, they had to pick out the color of the resin, and then they had to pick out like their dried flowers or put glitter in them to like basically decorate it, and then they came back the next day to make actual jewelry. I thought it was really cool. I got to see like elderly people like get super creative and in touch with their inner child. I just can't believe I blanked on that. Like I was so annoyed because when I got home, like I was like, I could have told them about my recent like class that I just hosted, but it's okay. I'm gonna tell you at the end what I did. But yeah, that's how I answered that. How would you make the library more inclusive? And so I feel like this question was kind of to see like if you knew the basics of customer service, being respectful, being patient, being kind, and then also willing to get out of your comfort zone to like just be present, because it takes a lot to be a people person in terms of like the public. And so yeah, like I said, it was being patient, being kind, and being able to just get out of your comfort zone and help people out. Obviously, I said more, but I don't want to just keep going. It's just a customer service question, and I feel like you guys can get more creative with that one. So the next question was, describe a time you planned or helped a program for kids. So specifically for kids, what was your role and what was the outcome? Because they were looking for something more kid-oriented, I did start to tell them about how I assisted in like baby story time. Baby and preschool are kind of similar. The only thing is it's less reading towards you. It's usually a shorter book and it's more activity based. There's bubbles involved. There's colorful scarves involved. There's just different elements that keep the child engaged and just, you know, it's pleasing to the eye. They're like, oh, what is that? Oh, what is that? And it keeps them like curious and awake, because a lot of babies just tend to fall asleep during your class because it's a long time. It's a long time to be sitting in one place, and I understand. I get it. 30 minutes, it's a long time. The last question that they asked me was, tell us about your experience working with children and why you want to work in youth services. Like I said, they were really misleading at the beginning with the whole job title because it kept changing on me, but they did clear that up after I asked them like, hey, is this a library position or is this a youth services specific position? And they said, this is a youth services library assistant position. I was like, okay. So then that's why I keep getting like a bunch of kid questions, like kid related questions. And yeah, like I told them my experience working with kids at the public library and just in life in general. I think they really liked the fact that I was able to just communicate bilingually. One of the librarians that was actually interviewing me was a youth service librarian. Like there was a time after my questions where they were like, do you have any questions for us? And I was like, yeah, like why youth services specifically? And she was like, honestly, I used to be a teacher, but I got so stressed out and there were so many rules as a teacher and I felt like I wasn't contributing enough, and it was also damaging to my mental health, and I still wanted to help kids but just in a different way, hence why she became a youth services librarian. Which I'm like, that's really cool that you took your passion and you also took account your own like mental health to still do what you love but also in a different way. Like that's really inspiring, I told her. The other two librarians, one was just the overall library manager. I guess she was just one of the big bosses there, which was really cool. She was calm. She had been there for 25 years. She was like, I started as a part-timer and I never left. I was like, that's so cool. The other one was the outreach librarian. I was like, okay, that makes sense, because she had like the most bubbly personality I've ever seen a librarian have. And she just talked about being a youth services librarian at the beginning, but then she realized that she really just liked talking to people way more, and that in turn helped like the transition into an outreach librarian. And what an outreach librarian does, she kind of explained to me a little bit, was they help with events and the marketing of those said events, and they also go to like other places and events to promote the library, which I find that really cool because you're like actual boots on the ground promoting the library and helping people get library cards. So towards the end of the interview was the portion where I had to present my outline, and they honestly thought that I was just gonna come out with like my little piece of paper and then I was gonna talk about it. No, your girl, okay, listen up. Your girl made a whole PowerPoint presentation, right? Like a marketer would. I made a whole PowerPoint presentation about my story time, and I can put it up here if you want me to. Like, here are the slides. That's right. And so I started out with just like, hey, this is my slide for this city, here we go. And they were so in awe because I brought my iPad out, but they were like, you know what, you can connect it to the TV, so let's connect it to the TV. I connected it to the TV and I was able to present to them right then and there, and they were like so cool. Like I felt like they were impressed because they were like, okay, Miss Above and Beyond. I was like, thank you. You know, obviously I did the outline of like what theme it was gonna be, which was, you know, today's theme is colors around us, which is like the primary colors, introducing preschoolers to the primary colors. This is the book that I was gonna read. It was like Mouse Over Paint, and it was just a book about primary colors and what happens when you mix primary colors. The next thing was an activity of like pointing out who is wearing what kind of colors, right? And then another activity where it was a scavenger hunt where who could find something red around the room, right? To get like the kids moving and grooving and like curious around the room. And then the last closing thing was a goodbye song. And then once parents got up and started to leave, I would hand them like a coloring sheet, maybe some crayons to take home with them so they could experiment and, you know, retain memory of like why the primary colors are essential and like what their names are. Like, just introducing kids to colors, right? For the first time ever. And then obviously encouraging them to come back to the library for next week's preschool story time. So I think I killed it. They loved it. They asked me a bunch of questions about it. They were like, oh, why'd you pick this theme specifically? You know, how would it help preschoolers? What motivated you towards the end to like do a handout instead of just like a goodbye? Stuff like that. I felt like the interview went really well. The only thing that I'm just like a little scared of is that they are looking for someone specifically interested to youth services. I did tell them that I am open to anything, but I'm not really so specific like how the other librarians were. They were like, youth services. Again, like when I was applying, I didn't know it was specifically youth services until I was in the middle of it. And then obviously I got confirmation during this third interview that it was a youth services one. Again, it's not that I don't like children or anything, but it's more like if I had the option to choose like an archivist role versus a youth services role, I would go towards archivist because that's what I'm actually passionate about. But for right now, I am very interested and very honored to even be in this interview process. So we shall see if I get this job at the end. So before I left and everything, we did have a couple more minutes of this interview. They asked me again if I had any more questions. I did have questions like regarding like the scheduling and then next steps. They did tell me that they would get back to me mid-December, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of far away. They also said that I was one candidate out of 4 in the running, and the way that it works is basically basically, since they were writing all of my answers down, they're gonna refer back to it, because they're gonna go through that interview process with all the other candidates, and then at the end they're gonna get together and they're gonna vote for their top pick. And if there's a tie, then there is a round 4 of interviews. But if there's a clear-cut winner, then that clear-cut winner is going to get a phone call and an offer, and where they can either accept or reject the offer. I was like, okay, cool, that sounds great. And they also said the way the voting works is basically that those 3 librarians that were interviewing me, they basically do a blind voting where, like, this is my preference. They give it to the library director, and then that director basically takes that into consideration, or the director can literally go ahead and veto whatever their preference is and go with someone completely different, which I found that very interesting. And that's when I asked, like, okay, so am I going to meet the director, or is anyone gonna meet the director in terms of like the 4th interview? And they were like, no. I was like, okay, cool. So my fate is in this person's hands, someone that I've never met before, which is a little nerve-wracking to me, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. But they were really nice about it. They said usually like 9 times out of 10, the director does like read over their notes and everything and goes with their preference, their choice. Very rarely do they choose another person altogether based on the responses that they've written down. After my interview, I was I felt happy. I'm gonna be honest with you. I did feel happy. I felt like time went really quickly in that interview. I did try my best. I didn't feel like I stuttered in any of them. I just felt like I really wish I had more of a passion, like a genuine passion for youth services, but I do have a passion for library, and I hope that came across stronger. We shall see. I am waiting still for, the reply back, because obviously it's not December yet. That being said, this morning I did do a follow-up email. You should always do a follow-up email after being interviewed, no matter what, okay? No matter if it's to the HR lady or to just a manager in general. Like, I had the head manager's email address, and she's the one that was emailing me about like what I needed to bring for this interview. I sent her a big thank you so much for the interview email and how I greatly appreciated their time and their effort. And I also added in that I had thought of like my blind date with a book class that I recently hosted with another local library, and I wanted to add that into my response, just to be a little cheeky about it, because I felt like I really needed to say something about it. I'm really proud, and I can't wait for you guys to see that awesome class that I hosted in my next video. I'm so excited to show you guys. But yeah, it went really well because I had like a huge turnout, which I was like, okay, this is mind-blowing. I don't know if they responded yet. I haven't checked my email because it was this morning. But yeah, that was essentially it. And you know what's funny is that after it was all said and done and I was just sitting in my car, one of my friends reached out to me and was like, hey girl, just letting you know I'm leaving the state. I'm moving to another state and my job is about to open up. And I'm like, and my friend is actually a library admin assistant for the library that I actually did a blind date with a book class. And I was like, what? And so if I don't get this job, I think that I may have a lead on another job, which means I'm taking you guys for another journey. In case that I don't get this job, we're still gonna keep going. We're still going strong, you guys. I don't think her position opens up until like late February, but you know what? It's up to the universe at this point to see if I even get this job or if I'm going to go on ahead and just keep chugging along and see if I get a library admin job. On top of that, just to give you guys another heads up, I have been looking at other universities, not just public libraries, and I recently just applied to a university position as a library assistant, specifically for an archivist collection. So I don't know if anything will come of it, but immediately when I did see the job posting, I applied. So who knows where my journey will take me. You guys are definitely coming along for the ride. You guys are gonna get all the nitty-gritty details. Like, I hope this brought value to you guys. I hope that you guys learned how it is in terms of the interview process. If this brought value to you, please like, comment, comment, subscribe. Any engagement helps. Thank you guys so much for watching. I honestly, I appreciate it so much. Like, I recently just passed 200 followers and I celebrated so hard. Like, I told everybody I knew, I was like, you guys, I have 200 subscribers. Did you know that? That's awesome. So thank you so much, dude. Like, you have no idea how much this means to me. It makes me giddy to like see comments about other library people being enthusiastic about like their pivot into the industry and like the fact that they appreciate me making these videos. So thank you guys so much. As always, like, just keep watching and join the journey, because I know it's a bumpy ride, but I feel like we're all gonna eventually get there. Okay? Until the next one, bye.